please welcome Chief Logistics Officer and Partner, South by Southwest Conference and Festivals, Mike Shea, and co-founder Superfly, Richard Goodstone, and Senior Editor Skift, Greg Oates. 2, 3. This must be me.
Nailed it.
All right, so this is what, the second last session today, so we're in the home stretch. You know, there's a lot that goes into meetings and events, a lot of art and science, and that's evolving in so many different ways. We have two of the best people, you know, at least in the country, if not worldwide, about putting events together. We're going to be talking about South by Southwest in Austin with Mike, and then Bonnaroo, which is produced by Superfly. Together, these two events both get between 80 to 90,000 participants every year. So they've really, you know, achieved almost a cult-like following with their respective audiences. So we really kind of wanted to talk today about, you know, what's that secret sauce, what's that little bit of extra that turns these events into, you know, a transformative experience. And just, you know, past when we've talked, we've really looked at 4 different elements that you guys both called, you know, sort of the secret sauce of your events. One was creating interdisciplinary experiences that bring together creative people from different backgrounds, merging programming that speaks to both personal and professional interests, marrying the online and offline worlds, and crowdsourcing programming. So we're going to look at that, and then we're going to get into a little bit about brand building and whatnot. So first, can you just both tell everyone about your events, and also if you could sort of describe, if you can, a little bit about, you know, how do you identify your audiences? Who are your audiences?
Well, just to give a little bit of background for everyone asking who Superfly is, we have been shaping and defining culture through the lens of live experience for the past 20 years, and we're most well known for a couple of our flagship large-scale festivals, the Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival in Tennessee, as Greg mentioned, upwards of 100,000 people a day, as well as Outside Lands in San Francisco, and similar in size. And then we have a pretty deep pipeline of new properties that we're bringing online. And then the other half of our business is really just taking that expertise and you know, helping some of the more ambitious and global companies in the world tell their stories through the use of culture, and that comes to life through live experience or social influencer marketing and of course content. You know, our audience is, the way we've created our business, and I established it with my 3 of my closest friends, you know, a long time ago, so really have been blessed and feel like I'm living the dream. But we built the company based on things that we wanted to see. We were the audience we were trying to create for. So at that point, it's a Gen X, still is to some degree, certainly very much millennially focused, because as we evolve and we bring new people into the fold of Superfly and that creative energy, we're continuing to try and create experiences for them. And it makes it very easy to know your audience at that point. We continue to you know, keep your ear to the grindstone and listen to people and do all the stuff with data. But I think it's great when all the people in your office are the people that you're actually creating for as well. So.
Okay, Mike?
So I'm going to go ahead and use up just a couple of seconds of my time to thank everybody at Skift here and ask for a round of applause for putting on a really great event. This has been super, and I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. So South by Southwest is going to be 31 years old in 2017. The original intent of the event, and still one of our primary goals, is to do an event for the industries, for the music industry, the film industry, the interactive technology industry, and over the years it's expanded into lots of other different industries. And so that's one of the things I think that people don't understand, or that's the most misunderstood about South by Southwest, is that it's a business event at its core. So even though it's grown outside of that to become a more and more consumer event, the conference sessions that we do, we do 2,500 conference sessions every year. That's really what it's all about. So our people the main focus of South by Southwest is to get those professionals in a room together, get them talking to each other about the future, about the past, about what's good, about what's bad, and really find a way for them to move themselves, their companies forward. One of the biggest things we've done over the past few years is to do more and more convergence type panels, more and more convergence type events, because they're not one-dimensional, their companies aren't one-dimensional. The people that come to South by Southwest are involved in lots of different areas, or they're involved in one area but lots of different ways to accomplish those same goals. So our primary focus, again, business people, industry people, B2B type of an event, but then with a large consumer component around the outside of it.
Okay. I know we talked earlier, about how does this, discussing the event sector, how is that relevant with the travel sector? Like, why are you guys here, do you think?
Well, I think if you, it's a good question. Why are we here? Just from a numbers perspective, South by Southwest, the economic impact of our event in 2016 was $325 million for the city of Austin. Media impact from coverage around the world was another $230 million. So certainly from the hospitality perspective, that economic impact is huge. It goes to hotels, it goes to transportation, it goes to food and beverage, it goes to all of those different areas. So in a way, what South by Southwest or an event like Bonnaroo or any of the larger events, what they do is they have a transformative effect on a destination. So if travel is getting you from point A to a destination, then what we're doing is we're transforming that destination, giving people another reason to go there, and bringing something new and exciting to the destination at the same time.
Well, I've had one on tourism board, their CMO from one of the big cities in Texas, who she said, that damn South by Southwest, that's done more for that city than anything else. But in terms of economic development and brand image and positioning the city in a certain way, there's definitely, I think, some really interesting alliances between the event and the destination.
We get that request a lot, people wanting to know if we can just parachute a South by Southwest into Fort Lauderdale or wherever.
Mm-hmm. And ultimately, we're a hospitality company at its heart. And I think, while it's coming from a different approach, we're still catering to our audience, trying to super serve them, whether that's a hotel room or a flight or an experience that we're creating. It's just a different lens. And when you think about, the audience we're trying to reach, they don't really care who it's coming from in the approach. They're just looking for that same type of an experience.
Right. So what we've talked about before, what the title of this session is on creating experiences. I don't know if there's a more overused word in travel and marketing than experiences. But as we discussed before, these really have been transformative experiences in terms of event design. It seems like where this all starts is understanding your customer, using data, using surveys to really delineate, who your fans are. You've said before, Richard, that we have a deep pipeline of knowledge and data to help us understand our audience better. The most important thing we know is that passions don't live in silos. At Bonnaroo, we're drawing people who are coming on a pilgrimage. It's a community, they're a tribe. Our data helps us understand our audience better. Can you talk a little bit about data strategy, because it's evolving, every month?
Well, I think, speaking to audiences, there used to be very clear delineations, like I'm this, I'm a dad, a sports fan, but you start to realize that we're really all made up of many cultures and subcultures. There's this cultural fluidity that's happening, and you move between them pretty naturally, and you kind of have to understand those kind of nuances of your audience. And the best way to do that, obviously, is multifaceted. Certainly, again, if you can build things knowing that you're the end consumer and looking for people who are similar to yourselves, or of course looking at data and understanding your audience and speaking to them and asking all the right questions. Both those things are incredibly important. But to your point, one of the things that came out of just even our own learnings, like listen, when we started our company, we built it was all, the foundation was music, and then it became comedy and theater and culinary and cocktails, and all these things that as we continued to evolve as humans became important to us. And we saw that, of course, that's, you're never living in a vacuum. That's happening there's a collective consciousness to all of it. So as we evolve and our audiences evolve, we continue to stay with them, and these events and these experiences need to be multidimensional in nature. You're not, when we, Bonnaroo Outside Lands, while music is the foundation, we're thinking about the experience from the second they hear about it till they leave. And that means, what is the security like? What are the bathrooms like? Every single moment needs to be thought about so that you can, it's all part of the experience. When they leave, they're going to think about every one of those things. With our security, instead of wearing security shirts, they wear safety shirts. Small little nuances that make people feel more comfortable. At Bonnaroo, a lot of our security is on actual horses because they're very calming animals, and all of those pieces come together how you treat a customer. And of course, it applies to all different industries, but whatever your main thing that you're offering is, there's probably many other pieces to it that you have to really be thinking about to be the best at what you do.
So just talking about passions being outside of silos, and this idea that we're all evolving to be much more multidisciplinary with more interests that cross different sectors. I think, if I look back to see where that really started to take effect in the events industry would be when Interactive joined up with South by Southwest, and suddenly you had arts, you had music, you had film, and you had tech. And it wasn't just so much that it was one more vertical, it was that now you had this sort of synergy, this convergence of creative people coming together that I don't think anyone has done before. And since then, there's been a lot of copy, a lot of people that have been inspired by that. C2 Montreal, Commerce and Creativity, Mermation Festival in St. Louis just kicked off last week, which is the convergence of art, music, science, and tech. There's another one I just came across, Hub Week, which was put on by MIT and Harvard, and the city of Boston, a festival of the future celebrating innovation in art, science, and tech. So all of these, we're seeing this come together.
And you've probably only named like 25% of them, because
I'm sure
everybody's got their own version of that coming up. But yet when, so South by Southwest started in '87. In 1994, we added a film component. And at the same time that we added a film component, one of our directors said, technology is kind of a big thing right now. We should have a track in film. And so they did. They added a track, and they called it multimedia at the time. And it actually had sessions on things like the internet. What is it, and how do I get some? So those were the early days. Technology at the time was it was all CD-ROMs, and it was games, and it was things like that. But yeah, so it really took quite a long time to take off. The whole technology aspect of it, we saw pretty quickly that it was a keeper, that it was worth working with. But it really took quite a long time. It was bubbling under. The film event was growing pretty well. Interactive less so. But then suddenly everything just took off, and now, of course, the technology, the interactive event is the biggest component at South by Southwest right now by most measures, not by every measure. Mm-hmm. But getting back to your early question about data and getting data from your folks, in the past we would always do a post-event survey and gather information about people, and of course we had as much demographic information as we could collect on folks. But several years ago, someone came up with the idea of actually crowdsourcing a lot of our conference content. So the idea of actually surveying people before the event, finding out what they were interested in, and involving them in actually creating and curating the content was an idea that was it was really, I think, a little bit revolutionary. Although it was more or less a glorified call for papers. Really, it was just. Done on the internet, done online instead of by faxing things in. But what was really, I think the big big transformative part of it was that people got to vote on the panels that were submitted. So you might submit a session that you wanted to present. It would go up, it would go live on the website, and then anybody in the world could come in and say, yeah, I'd go see Greg talk about that, or I wouldn't go see Greg do anything. So, but it was good because it was actually finding out from everyone in advance what their interests were and what they would be interested in at the event.
Well, the panel picker.
The panel picker.
So I think it was just like Fritz Van Passion, the ex-CEO of Starwood, said yesterday. They almost built out the hotel as much as you can, the physical, the futures and the programming and the software. And when we look at events now, and have for a long time, there's still a lot has events looked like before in terms of the business conference aspect. So really, I think the only way that they can evolve is this idea of expanding the conversation before and after in a digital sphere, and crowdsourcing content to direct programming, so that by the time everyone shows up, this discussion's already started. But there's another element about that was really cool, which you said you hadn't anticipated. So everyone's submitting these ideas that they would like to do at South by Southwest. They're proposing their sessions. But then they start sharing those on social to get other people to vote for them.
Yeah. So it was kind of an unintended consequence.
The marketing aspect of that.
Sure, where people would be trying to get people to vote for them. They were out there campaigning.
Right.
They were online.
But there's that, hashtag South by, SXSW on every one of those, and people are sharing, and it's building organically the voice. And then you guys come in and you decide, okay, these are the ones that were upvoted. We're gonna choose these. But the question is, it seems, I know that the technology it's proprietary. Well, you guys have built that, so there's some investment there. But why aren't more events doing that, or just what are some of the challenges to put that together? Because not many people are doing that.
I don't think I've got a good answer for that. I think it's a really good concept. I think it's worked for us. I think that other people have, other events have their own way of curating. I suspect that other people do it just maybe a little bit differently from the way we're doing it. But I don't think I have a good answer for that.
Have you seen other events that have that volume of crowdsourced content before in discussion, like 7 months before?
Definitely not that volume.
Right.
I think it's more conference-based. We couldn't democratize the talent buying at our types of festivals and events. But I think for what you guys do, I think it's exactly how you have to operate. It's great.
All right.
Well, it's also good because it's authentic. It's really coming from people with the desire to participate in the event. I mean, they're totally sincere and they have great ideas.
All right. So what we've been talking about is how your events, they're becoming more interdisciplinary, bringing more types of content programming together, creative minds coming together from divergent backgrounds. Now let's talk a little bit about how that works with the branding, when the brands start seeing this energy. And there's definitely a shift in the past from where it was about impressions and eyeballs for some kind of visual toward experiential marketing, making it emotional, making it immersive. Bonnaroo has done a lot in that area. You just want to kind of paint a big picture of how that's moving?
Yeah, sure. I think, marketing continues to evolve. I think as social media came online, brands started to realize that whether you were doing a good job of marketing to an audience or not, they were going to talk about you. And I think a lot of brands didn't even want to consider the fact that they were doing a poor job with marketing. So at that point, you started to realize, well, what am I doing? Am I buying 30-second spots? Am I putting up banners? And where's the value? So fortunately for us, when we started, we were, really young, and ignorance is sometimes bliss. And as we tried to find partners and people were like, well, how many banners? And 30, we were just like, listen, we need to make sure you're going to add value to the overall experience. That's pretty commonplace now to understand that there needs to be some value exchange. And we've bucketed it 3 ways, whether it's through utility, entertainment, or surprise and delight. And different brands have permission to do different things depending on what type of a brand it is. Is it culturally dynamic, like an Apple or potentially a Samsung? Is it more utility-based, like a State Farm or whatever it might be? And I think that what we've tried to do is work with the brands creatively to figure out ways that they can be a real asset and value to the overall experience. And we've been very successful with it just by being creative, and understanding our audience. And understanding brands. I mean, it's a kind of like a three-part thing. A brand needs to understand and have a strong sense of self and what it stands for, and then you've got to know your audience, and then you need to connect those two through the lens of culture. And I think that we've been really good at that, and obviously it's transformed our business in multiple ways, but certainly you can leverage that, the ability to bring brands in, they draft off your brand equity, and the fans can really appreciate it when it's done well. And the key always with anything is you just got to be able to do it well. So.
Mike, in terms of South by, last year you had the huge Ferris wheel to advertise the launch of Mr. Robot, tying in with the Ferris wheel in Coney Island, which is in the series. I went to the Japanese house, so at South by the conference, there's a lot of off-site venues where companies and countries will come in and take over, a restaurant or what have you, as a pop-up venue. Japan, they're brought in sort of the world's leaders in sentient robotics, and we're watching robots talk to each other. The amount of experiences there.
You see more stuff at South by Southwest than I do.
I was running around a lot, and it goes on. I mean, the whole, Oslo came in and took over that little tiny restaurant. They had a little panel on smart cities, and it was intoxicating. The knowledge, just all this content, trying to embrace it all. So if I'm a brand, I have a lot of different opportunities here, it sounds like. Can you talk about how that's evolved over the last 5 years at South by?
Well, the international flavor is really a big part of South by Southwest. There's probably 80 to 90 countries that are represented in one form or fashion at South by Southwest. So, having the Japanese come in, having the UK come in, having the Aussies, the New Zealanders, it really adds a real different flavor to the event. We enjoy that. It makes a big difference. One of the things also that is an advantage but a disadvantage is that in a lot of ways the entire city of Austin has become our platform. Because the event has grown so large, it's sprawled, it can't be contained in just a convention center or hotels or even the parking lots around the convention center or even the vacant storefronts around there or even the nightclubs or the theaters or whatever. It just keeps spreading and sprawling. So the good thing is that gives us and it gives our sponsors a lot of other places where they can activate, where they can do something, that's a little sexier than having a lounge in a convention center or that sort of thing. And it gives us a lot of opportunity for the general public to participate. That's where a lot of the consumer activity comes in. The downside is that we face a challenge with guerrilla activations. And so we have to deal with the fact that there are people who are going to come to Austin during South by Southwest, and they're going to try to market to our people without officially participating in the event. So it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it works to our advantage because we have this entire downtown area to play with, and on the other hand, we're setting up a place for people to come in and compete with us.
Okay. What's next? How are we bringing this together? We've talked about sort of these four themes that have elevated your events into these transformative experiences. What's 5 years down the road, 10 years down, or what's your pipe dreams? What would you just love to see, or accomplish with some of your events?
Well, I mean, I think for us, it's about building communities through shared passions, and we're going to continue to do a lot more of it. We're going to continue to just try and build, these environments that people can kind of, we look at it as, Bonnaroo is a canvas. We provide the paints with all the content, and then they come and they kind of choose their own adventure. And the environments that we can put them in, that's really the special sauce, right? Like, people here in New York, I mean, you see people walking down the streets, and this is what everyone does, right? And you come to these festivals and these events, and you open up, and it's a sense of discovery, and it's a mind frame that you walk in with, a mindset that, I want to discover, I want to be curious, I'm excited about what's here, and it's, the power of that is really incredible. It doesn't matter the subject matter, necessarily, but it really does matter on how willing I am to absorb the environment and how much I'm willing to learn And we really look at it as a responsibility once we know we're going to establish these things, because these are people are trusting you with their time. And so you give them things that they know about, but at the same time, they're going to discover all sorts of things. I mean, when I go to South by, I've got 10% of what I'm going to wind up seeing is on my list, especially during music. The rest is, just going on an adventure with people leading me different ways. And we look at that as a responsibility, because whether it's, Bonnaroo and it starts with music, then there's, meditation and yoga classes and dance classes and things around healthy lifestyles and comedy. All of these things kind of come together with this cross-pollination, and if we can continue to build that, whether it starts with and leads with culinary, whether it starts and leads with resort hospitality type businesses, whatever it might be, it's all going to be about how you can build community around them and how you can super serve.
And Mike, in terms of the future, you've mentioned too that there could be some more integration with travel and tourism, and what else are you envisioning down the road?
Well, I think that one of the things that we're trying to do is to cover as many different topics as possible, as many different relevant topics. What you were saying about serendipity is really important. So it's important for us to create a framework and also a magnet that will attract people, and a framework that works for them, where the trains will run on time and all of the production will work. But at the same time, there has to be an element of serendipity where around any corner, you're going to bump into something that you didn't expect. And so, what I had talked about earlier about transforming a destination. So you take a city like Austin or whatever it might be, 365 days a year, Austin is a great place to go to. But during South by Southwest, it's got that little sort of extra something. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we're going to continue to try to do for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, however long the run lasts, is to just keep expanding the experience, finding out what people are interested in, finding out what appeals to us, what's attractive to us, what makes sense, and just keep expanding the experience to make the event better and keep having that secret sauce that you were referring to at our event.
All right. Well, thank you both. Pleasure having you here. Let's go have her.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.